So let's begin today's session. Our topic is identify children with special needs. Hello, everyone, all our attendees who have joined this session today, and I hope that you will have a lot of takeaways from this session. You will learn a lot, and you will be able to implement all these things to identify children who have some disabilities who need special assistance. So our today's speaker is Miss Nitika Jain. She is a special educator, and she will be giving you a brief presentation on how you can identify children with special needs, and we will also have a Q&A session after this. You can write your questions in the Q&A column, and we will also have poll questions in this session. So over to you, Miss Nitika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamid. Namaste, everyone who has joined in, and I'm glad that you have taken out some time to take up with this session. I hope I'm audible and clearly visible to all of you. Thank you. All right. So I really would welcome you all. And the session, as Hamid has already described all of you about, that it is about identifying children with special needs. So when we go along with the session, there are a few things that we are going to discuss, and we would understand as teachers that how can we actually identify those children, because those children are always around us, but it is sometimes becomes difficult to even just to grasp those small instances what the children are going through with. So with this, let's just go ahead. First of all, my question to all of you is, what do you think education is? Because first of all, we are just describing about, since it's about teachers, we are sitting in the classroom. So what do you all think what education is? And for that, I do have a poll for all of you, which is, okay, so you already have done it. It says holistic development. Most of the people has voted it for holistic development. Okay, that's good. Training to brain is one option. Then training child for the future jobs is the other option. Dependence to independence is the other one. But most of you has encouraged holistic development. If we would go further, let us first look at few of the definitions which are like very common and that we can always see around. Education is the attainment of happiness through perfect virtues. Or education is natural, symmetrical, and harmonious development of all the faculties of the child. When we say all the faculties, it must include the physical abilities, mental abilities, some developmental delays or subdevelopmental issues that can be addressed, or the basic milestones of development, for instance. And if you would further go ahead, then there is this another definition which is saying education is the creation of a sound mind in a sound body. I am healthy person who is sitting in front of all of you. You people are also healthy. That is why you must have joined the session and you are trying to take something away from it. Now it develops man's faculty, especially his mind, so that he may be able to enjoy the contemplation of supreme truth, goodness, and beauty, of which perfect happiness essentially consists. When we say happiness, how is it directly related to education? We are just going to look something into that also. Now, if we would talk about special needs, special education, and special education needs, with that, I have again got one other poll that is there, and I guess the results. Okay, so the poll comes with this. I'm starting the poll, and I want all of you to participate with it. Wow. Okay. So quite of the mixed results, but I'm waiting for a few more moments so that everyone can just answer. All right. So I guess most of the things, most of the people have answered it already. And as I can see, the result published goes up to education for children with some special needs. Okay. So when we say special needs, special education, or special education needs, this includes other things also. When we can say that special, special is not just one thing around, but special is something that education which is given to special people. Special is something that is given to persons with disabilities, and then some people who are very, very intelligent, whom we can also say some gifted children that are there. And when we say what special education needs are, so special education needs simply is all about when we cater to the needs of the children who are not like us in a way, we can say so, who doesn't fit to the normal scale, we can say for that matter, and the children who perhaps are having some difficulties that could have some serious illnesses, some sort of accidents that they may have had in the past, and now they are just trying to recover from that. Or else we can say some simple allergies, some other disabilities that they are diagnosed with, physical, mental troubles, sometimes the troubles of the disagreements that they are having with their parents and that are mostly gone unnoticed. Then we have some simple ways to identify these children in our classroom setup, which is the session is all about. So, if we would categorize all of this, this includes physical, emotional, and social, attention behaviors, language ability, learning and cognition, and family factors and other conditions. Now, I want all of you just to take a deep breath first and then to imagine your own classrooms. Cool. Now, when you have imagined your classrooms, you must have had the different faces just around you, just in your brain. And every face, every child is different from the other. Doesn't matter if they are sitting together. Sometimes the children in the same class are cousins. Sometimes they hail from the same family. Sometimes we as teachers has taught their parents also. But do you think that all of them are same? No, all of them are different in their own ways, in their own capabilities, in their own behaviors. So when we talk of all of this, now let's think of our own individual classrooms or the class or the school that we are in and think of all of these. So it comes to the physical attributes first of all. In classes, we all face children with different skills. Now, when we say physical, physical is having two categories primarily, which is gross motor skills and fine motor skills. So, initial days of a child has gross motor skills. Let's say when a child is born, we can say that the child is particular lbs or just particular pounds, which is ideal weight is like almost 3 kgs, and then some few inches, which is like 19, 20, 22 inches. So these are the other things that we consider as the correct physical measure. Now, when we think of more of this, you can also think about the children of your class and see if they have some weak muscle tone. That means sometimes they are not ready to pick up weight. Sometimes they are not ready to lift things. They may feel disgusted when they are asked to move from one place to the other. They don't feel like doing this. Think of those children in your classroom. They are a bit slower. I'm not saying they cannot do that, but they are a bit slower. Every age has some certain milestones. For instance, a child who is like 4 weeks can start, just understand who the people around him or her, can start giving social smiles. And when a child is like by the age of 2, we just definitely mention it that the child is able to stand without support. But if the child is not able to do it, that means the child is a bit delayed. He or she is not able to accomplish or to that particular measure. So that child is not able to run, perhaps, or doesn't want to jump or climb, or doesn't want to play with the other mates around, have poor balance, or perhaps that child falls easily. It's not just the physical strength that comes with once you stand or weight lift or show your muscles, but it comes with the regular tasks also, the tasks that we do in everyday life. So the child might have very poor balance or cannot easily walk for long distances. If the child has to go or climb the stairs to reach to his or class, the child might feel, oh my God, 2 stairs, I don't want to be, or I don't want to do it. That could be one way. You can think of some certain child who are always afraid or refrain to do such things. Then, who are having poor coordinations. Now, when we think of these skills, poor coordination includes a lot of things. But in general, if you want to identify it in the classroom setups, let's say you would ask the child to play a particular dart game. Being teachers, I think in also traditional setup, teachers used to have a very good coordination. They can just put the chalk exactly to the student who is talking in the class. But imagine a child who is not able to just have that pen correctly get to the child who is troubling him. Think about it. So they are having some sort of poor coordinations. Then they have very much difficulty in judging the distances, which is quite related to the above mentioned term. They don't feel that they would be okay while roaming around. They might get into something, they might barge into something, sometimes they just bang themselves with the walls, or they just have some sort of problems all the time. While simply if you just ask the child, come child, stand up and come to me, my desk, if the child is not able to do it all the time properly, it's also the frequency that we have to see as teachers, not just once or twice, but frequency of like at least one. Just if he's getting things right for just one time from 20 or from 30 times, we can think it that way. When it comes to the next point, that find it difficult to learn new physical activities or ball games. Usually, it's my experience, and I'm sure most of the teachers who are here will agree with me that students or the young children would have energy. I do not know from where would they get it this much of energy levels, this high energy levels all the time, roaming around from here to there, doing this and that, and they just don't want to sit in one place. I mean, I just have kudos to all the teachers who are teaching primary classes. The way they handle their students, oh my God. Now, think of a child who is maybe not much active in the classroom compared to the other children, because that could be the correct measure. So, when we say gross motor skills, this includes your strong muscles or the body, which is more visible, the things that you do more often. Even brushing, sometimes you would hear, mothers complaining, my child doesn't brush every day. He feels very annoyed, or maybe he annoys me a lot while I ask him or her to bathe. What kind of signs these are? Why the child isn't doing it? It's not that the child is lazy. Perhaps the child is not having that much of physical strength to even conduct those regular tasks that any of us can do easily. Now, when we go to fine motor skills, isn't it very easy for all of us when we think of eating, or maybe when we think of the noodles, to use the forks or to eat with the chopsticks? Do you think it's as easy as it is for us for everyone around? I guess so. It's a no. We can comb our hair easily. So when we say fine motor, it's simple something called pencil grasp. For example, if I want to hold the pen correctly this way, this is in this I'm using my fine motors. Very small muscles that are used. When we say gross motor, it's something which is simple, just this palmar grasp, right? So this is it. When we say fine motors, children are sometimes not able to do it. I guess, being teachers, we always have a child in our classes who has got pathetic handwriting. And we are always done with those handwritings. Like, I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to check this test because I cannot read it. But is it the right solution? Or is it just one way to just consider that point? Perhaps no. So think about those things. The child who's having some difficulties in holding that pencil, or the child, might you have observed, doesn't feel good while he or she is eating food, is having problems while coloring or sketching or using the brush pens or using those paint brushes to do some skillful artwork. There is something with the fine motor skills in that particular child. And I'm sure we all have some certain children in our classes that way. Then think about it. How many of the parents come up with the complaints that my child cannot fasten or unfasten the buttons, or cannot tie his or her shoelaces? The child is so big enough, like old enough to do such tasks, but the child is unable to do so. So these come under fine motor skills. Can we all, as a teacher, have the drill tomorrow in our classrooms to ask all the children to at least tie up 3 or 4 buttons, or just to tie up the shoelaces as quickly as possible, to understand if they all can do it in a particular time frame? That way we can actually measure if they are going wrong or if they are just going along with the pace as per their age groups. With this, we were done with our physical attributes. I hope that was clear. Now, when we would move ahead with emotional and social. So first, obviously, our gross bodies are there. That's something that we can see, which is visibly in front of our eyes. But then there are other things which aren't there actually in front of our eyes, but somewhere behind. Now, there is one thing that I would like all of you to understand. Why am I doing this and not directly jumping to the academics? Because academic is something that we all are always concerned. But we need to find also the causes why the child is not performing well in academics. We can always say and come up with a lot of complaints, but if we would just find out the root cause, then I think we can heal the problems from where it is beginning, from its origin itself. So emotional and social needs of a child. Now, first of all, imagine if your principals, and I'm so sorry if all the principals are hearing me out loud here, if all the principals are just barging you with the class works all the time. After school, you are just asked to sit every day for at least 3 to 4 hours to do some certain work that is related to your school, and you cannot eat the food you like. You cannot, or maybe you're not having enough time to spend with your families, to your spouses, to your children, with any of the loved ones that you are having. That would be a difficult situation for all of us. And in that case, we might even yell at those who are giving us those commands. So in that case, now let's think about the child who is behaving in a different way. So when the child is appeared nervous, especially when the child is interacting with others. We always have monitors in our classes who are the most interactive creatures on planet Earth. They cannot stop, for God's sake. As a teacher, we always think that there should be some kind of lock and keys which can just be there and can be zipped easily, their mouths. But then again, at the same time, in our classrooms, we have certain children who doesn't feel good even to talk to their most loved one peoples in someone else's presence also. Think about those child, maybe in your previous classes, maybe in your current classes. They would tell the correct answer, but not to the teacher. And instead, they would just tell this to their partner in their ears. They speak in a very soft voice and hardly maintain any eye contact with anyone around. So, when you say eye contact, why is it so crucial? Let's say you are talking to somebody, and most of the teachers, we have this tendency, come, look into my eyes, stand straight, keep your head up, talk to me. I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to the walls. When we say such things, what really happens in our classroom? Just think about it. The child doesn't feel good enough to share his or her viewpoints with us. They only talk to the trusted members. And just to give you a bit of it, these could be sometimes the sign of autism spectrum disorder. I'm not saying always, but
I think there is some network issue with the Nitika. I'll just check with her. I want all the attendees to just wait for a minute. I'll just check if what the issue is. Thank you.
hello.
Yeah, we lost you there.
Am I audible again?
Yes, yes. Please
I'm
continue.
so sorry. I'm so sorry for that technical issue. Okay. So yeah, from where we have left. So fear of going to school, or just to fail to adapt to the school life even after started the school for some time. There are some certain children who find it very difficult to adapt to the school circumstances. They always are anxious ones. Now, if you would just think about it, I'm also the one. Sometimes I feel that I don't want to interact with my teachers. Maybe they just ask me some questions that I'm not able to answer. They might have differences of the opinions with you. They might feel that they are not capable enough to answer in the class. So these are some of the issues that the child is facing all the time, and we are never able to address them as teachers. And when it happens, it sometimes is so late that the child can have those attributes in him or her, and it becomes almost impossible to rectify them. Now, after this, if we would talk about it, it's not just one aspect of emotional health. Emotional health can also have some certain aspects. For example, there are some sort of anxieties that a child have. For example, the child is having test and the child starts behaving differently. This is one way. And there could be another ways in which we can say that the child is doing absolutely good, but when there are particular exam results that doesn't come the way child wanted, so the child starts reacting differently. But there are some children who reacts all the year same way. We are thinking or talking about them here, not some normal variations that we can just have randomly. And then again, there is the next level stage of our emotional health, which is depression. And sadly, all across the world, we are facing issues with these children. We are facing issues who the children who are having these problems, they are not feeling good, they are not feeling comfortable. So they might start reacting abruptly. You can never understand why are they reacting in such a way. Or the child starts just crying randomly. I do have seen this myself, and I'm sure we all must have seen, when there are two children who are fighting with each other, which is a very common thing that happens in every classroom. Then there are some certain children who just fights with the child, and they won't react as if anything has not, they just react as if nothing happened. And then there are other children who would react as if everything is gone in the world. who would react as if the things are changed totally, completely, who would react that, oh my god, I'm just going to cry now in front of my teacher, I'm going to take this complaint to my principal, I'm going to take this complaint to my parents and everyone. Why do you think the child is so complaining in nature? Why do you think the child is so much having anger issues, or maybe just crying and crying incessantly? There is no stoppage to that. There are some issues that we as a teacher are not able to understand, perhaps. And then we are having the children who are not bringing lunch, maybe, or who are not eating, if even if they are bringing it to the class. They are having lost appetite. And then when it comes to social, which is quite correlated to emotional and the social health of any child. So when we can say that the social health of the children are there, as far as it is concerned, they don't want to play with the other children. They feel they feel as if somebody's, just killing them. It feels catastrophic to be around other children. It doesn't feel good when they are on any public platform, they are just saying anything, their communication skills, they don't exhibit their speech. They feel it's okay to stay quiet, they feel it's okay to stay aloof. I'm sure you must have some children in your classroom this way, who doesn't want to talk to anyone except maybe one or two children in the classroom. They just completely ignore the conversation sometimes. They are always lost in their own thoughts and the world. I don't know if how many of you have read Toto Chan, but there is this very famous book, Toto Chan. And there is this instance in which Toto Chan is always busy seeing outside of the window of her classroom. And she just keeps on having some drums. Some musicians passes by, they just play drums and other instruments in actually just on a platform on a tree somewhere, and which is far away but at some quiet distance from the school background, and Toto-chan is always busy listening to them instead of taking some attention to the blackboard. So the teacher complained about it, and when the matter goes to headmaster took it very differently. He said, okay, if the child is very well at this music and doesn't take any interest in the mathematics, let me see what's the matter. And for further information, I think you all need to just go and peep into the book. But we all have some children who never are interested in what are we saying as teachers. They're always interested in something else. This could be sometimes a reason that the parents are fighting constantly and the child is not able to focus in the class. There could be other reasons for their social withdrawal. Perhaps the child is having so many tuition classes and the child is not having enough time to talk to anyone. There could be other reasons that the child is maybe not having enough financial capabilities that he or she can come up as the other friends or peer groups are doing. So we can think about such things. The child is having all the time flat tone, no body gestures. We are just asking child come all the time like how, what, where. The child isn't responding. It feels sometimes that there is always one way communication. Not even the child is not responding in any manner. This could be the point which every teacher needs to ponder over if it is happening in their classrooms. The child might need some special attention. And then when we talk of the other things, then we have attention and behavior. So when it comes to attention, I think attention is a very commonly used term which we all have all the time in our classes. I just want to take one minute and would like you to think if you all are very attentive right now. Think about it. Perhaps not much. Perhaps most of you are. But our attention span cannot go beyond certain limits. It has few limits. So, a child who is under 3 is having just like 2 to 5 minutes of attention span to anything. And that's why, child gets easily distracted. If they're crying, you will give them a toy, they would just get distracted so easily, which is very difficult with us as adults. If I'm crying over one thing, I would cry over that one thing, I guess, for days, for maybe for some hours, depends on what I'm crying over. So attention is something to be very specific about on one thing. Now, imagine a science classroom, if we are having any science teachers here, or maybe your classrooms where you were studying science, biology, or any other thing. When you were having all the experiments in the classroom or in the labs, you can learn them. You can be there all the time and you can think about them. Even now, today, after so many years of your education, of your class 10 or class 12. Now, there are also some children who are never interested in these things as well. Whatever amount of experiments I do in the class, whatever amount of microscopes or any other tools I would bring into the class, the child seems to be never ever interested, or the attention span is so tiny for so short time span that it becomes very difficult to even tell the child what I was talking about previously. So think about those children. Maybe they need some special attention. They might have some special requirements. And I would say that there are some children whom you can always think of not doing this good strokes, or maybe, who are just not all the time doing the worksheets, who are never bringing the signatures from their parents. Most forgetful child of your class. And then, if you would say, they are always restless. We have some certain children who are always there and fidgeting. I really hate some certain things in my classroom like this. But there is always one child in my class who keeps on doing it. No matter how much I would ask him to just don't do it. But it is something that keeps going on and on and on. It's an endless process. There is always one child in my class who would tap the shoe non-stop. And I can't help it out. There is always one child in our class. If, let's say, some pigeons flew in, or let's say another teacher just barged into my class, opened the door, whole class is just on that child or on that teacher, I'm sorry, not on me. What about me? What was I teaching on the board was important. And suddenly I feel less important as a teacher. I'm sure it happens with all of us. But think about it. Who is that child who also pays attention to the ant who is, or maybe a house fly in the classroom instead of you at times? It is about them. And then, if we would just talk about behaviors, it's something which is, again, we can think in the two ways. One behavior is how we are conducted to the society, we can say, or how we are conducted to ourselves or the family. So there is one behavior which shows activity level of the child. And then the second behavior is all about oppositional behavior. I've got some child, if I'm delivering a lecture, they are the ones who keeps on talking. And whatever they say is in a way not required at all. But they still say so. They they do need attention. And that has become a part of their behavior. If you would understand it with some examples, for instance, what happens sometimes is that a child who doesn't feel happy, who doesn't feel contented in his environment, immediate environment, then the child might start doing certain things through which the child can grab your attention. Think about those child of your classroom who does all the annoying things. Or think about being parents also. You can think about those children who always comes and asks you the most irrelevant questions once you are probably on the phone talking to somebody, or maybe you are just talking to some of the relatives who are there at your home. They seek your attention, and that is how it has turned out to be their behavior. Again, when it comes to oppositional behaviors, they would get irritated a lot. There are some children who lose their temper, who talk to you being teachers as if you are nobody to them. They never would think or listen to your instructions, and they would not hesitate ever to argue with you. They can never admit their mistakes, and intentionally they also create a lot of nuisance in the classroom. They might disturb their other playmates, their classmates. They might cheat in the games just to have that some attention levels. And then we would have something that is related to our academics and in general, which is language ability. So when we say language ability, again, it is having some certain things, which is comprehension, then our verbal expressions, and then our articulation. Now, if you would have known or seen a child, the child starts understanding first and expresses it later. Whatever you would say, it's easy to grasp, it's easy to take in rather to speak it out. Whatever I'm saying, you all are grasping it easily. But if I would ask you to instantly explain it to someone else, it might become a bit difficult. It is easy to comprehend things. So when we say of the verbal comprehension is whatever you are saying is easy. So how difficult understanding and long complex sentences are in oral instructions. A very good example for this is always if you would ask child, like you entered, you asked child, like, this is your English lecture, please bring out your English reader, open chapter 12, paragraph 3, page number 28. The child might get confused. So the child isn't able to understand all your complex instructions. Then you can also think of a child who is giving you answers which are not interconnected or interrelated. As example, one example is there, like, what does a fireman do? So the child might answer a fire engine, a fireman. Perhaps this could be one way. Then we sometimes the child is unable to understand all these stories or the videos that are being presented. When it is the stories or the videos, then the child is not able to understand all the spiral that is going on. And then verbal expressions, if we would talk about it, it's simple again, like grammatical errors. We always, as teachers, have complained why the child is not having the correct grammatical structures through, like, while he or she speaks, while he or she writes his or her answers. They are not having any organized answers in the classroom also. They cannot recall the simple message that has to be passed from one person to the other. And when it comes to articulation, the child is not able to say out things properly. So sand and verbal issues, right? I want biscuit. It becomes difficult for the child to remember things. And something which is related to it, we have learning and cognition, which is somewhere we can say for adults, it's a foundation. In early ages, early intervention, it is also called, we can understand through these things. Physical is very easy to understand. If I'm saying constantly a name, let's say Hamid, right? So if a child is not listening, or if the child is not responding at very early age, then I would say that there are some issues why the child isn't responding to his name all the time. That are early age signs. But when a child becomes an adult, or probably teenage, or 10 12 years of age, then these things can help you to intervene, to understand if the child is having some issues or not. So these children may having some if difficulties in reading, in writing, in general studies. They won't understand what arithmetic is all about. They don't understand how to simply apply a formula. it becomes very difficult for them to even remember that value of pi is. They are never eager to have any games or any new skills, and they don't feel that they really need some guidance. They are very difficult, they are having so much difficulty in completing even their classroom works. After which we would have learning and cognition again, so they easily forget whatever is being taught to them. And I'm sure we, as teachers, we are having a lot of children like that in our classroom. They often mixes up the words that are common, reading, writings. They have difficulty in those words, bought, got, right? Radish, carrot. We often get confused in this. They are very, very slow writers also at times. Very difficult to copy their work, even from the notebooks, let alone the board be. They also, a very funny thing is, sometimes we as teachers think, and I have seen a few teachers actually make fun of it, but it's nothing to be to make fun about. Some students also forget to put the right strokes. Putting the right strokes means that if a T is there, they would just forget to have that stroke. Their K doesn't have all the strokes. Please identify these signs. Then, very crucial thing, their family conditions and all the family factors. So I think this is to be summing up in a very, very easy way out. We, being teachers, we all know this family conditions. So their behaviors and emotions are directly associated what is happening in their family or what is happening in their immediate surroundings, how their caregivers are behaving with them. Then we have their physical appearances, then we have their learning abilities, again with the family interaction. So if you would say that their behaviors, they you must have seen child who are emotionally so unstable. One day you would just enter the class, the child would be having the brightest smile and would look like a sunflower, and perhaps the other day the child would look as dull as a mule maybe, or won't react in any way. They are having very much difficulty in being interactive. They are so reluctant socially. They doesn't want to talk. Then one very crucial thing is, if you can notice in a child, they are over clinging. Either they could be over clinging to one of their parents or to their immediate family member, or perhaps sometimes it happens that if they are not even over clinging, they are just so reluctant to talk to any of their family members, which mostly happens in teenage, because it's one of the signs. But if it's not happening in teenage before that, or it is something which is very prolonged, then it's a sign to ponder over, to think about. Then if the physical appearances are concerned, if the child is underweight, child isn't bringing their lunch all the time, they are looking untidy, they are sometimes not having their tie. We all have in our classroom a child who is sometimes lost with the tie, who is sometimes lost with the shoelaces, sometimes they are having the socks of different sizes. Think about them. They are perhaps not having enough of the stationery. Why? And it's a very continuous thing. It's not are the signs that are happening sometimes, but the signs that are happening every single time. Lastly, if we would say about learning, so they are more absent than being present to the classroom. A child who is having more A's than P in the attendance register. A child who is having continuous deterioration in their learning. Think about it. Again, then there are some other things, that parents' attitude towards them. So when we say the parents' attitude, extreme harshness, constant shouting. There are some parents who are having tendency to compare their child with every other person in the world. You can seek some questions to the parents about it as well, and if you can't do so, you may have some particular people who can guide their parents, who can have this conversation with the parents. They have lack of concern towards their child. Sometimes it's seen in the experience or in the research that one child is sometimes the favorite to the with compared to the other child. So the other child remains aloof all the time and doesn't feel like that the child wants to be there in all the time. And then of course we all know this unreasonable expectations of the parents. They just assume that the child should be so responsible. I cannot ask a 10-year-old to take care of the 5-year-old sibling totally all the time, or the 5-year-old child to take care of the younger sibling all the time. Just imagine, this would make their life so difficult. How could they connect with themselves? How could they connect with the people around them? Then their family background also matters, like single parents, step parents, if they are newly immigrant to one city or the one place, what kind of an income are they having, and with that income how many children are surviving, how the whole family is surviving. If there are joint families, sometimes there are family clashes, a lot of clashes, which doesn't allow child to groom, to bloom. If the parents are having stable jobs, or you can also think about it, if the parents, if in case they're not having stable jobs, they might not are giving enough attention to their children. So these are the factors that you can ponder over as a child, as a teacher, or as principal. You can see things around and then think about it. Then there are other things that are the health conditions of the parents. Imagine a parents, parents who are alcoholic. So what kind of a child can we expect in our classroom? They must be having some emotional or some psychiatric disorders because they are hailed from the parents. Some domestic violences, conflicts, frequent changes in the residences, parents who are just having some divorce cases going on. So these children are facing a lot of issues in themselves. Then I would like to tell you something about the red flags. So this session was all about identifying children. Here, these are not the perfect measures to identify. These are just some ways that probably there are some chances of having something wrong with the child. To understand that and to be sure about it, you always get the child tested, get the child assessed properly, for which that you can get done with some psychiatrists, some psychologists, or some special educators can help you with that. It's not something that as being a teacher you can do it, because only I would say then it is a gamble, it's assumption, which might harm the child also. Before taking any particular measures, you should always think if the child would get benefited from this or not. And also there is one thing, that observe the frequency of the things that I have mentioned here. Observe the kind of things that are there. For example, if the child is having just one trait, you cannot say that the child is problematic. Think about the traits that are so much there in one child, then you can say that the child needs some special attention. So yeah, that was all for today, and I'm so thankful for all of you to be there for some time and listening so patiently. I hope it went well and it was of some use to you. So it's time for all of your questions now. And hence, I guess it's open. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Nitika. We have a good amount of people who have joined, and well, you can write the questions in the Q&A session. And if you want to ask a certain, if you have a situation in the classroom of a for a student, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can ask that situation or that question as well.
I can see raised hands. Neetu, Sonam Mishra.
Yeah. So I will allow you to talk, Miss Neetu, if you want to talk. If you want to ask the question, you can speak now. Miss Neetu, do you want to speak? I, I think Miss Neetu isn't there. And
Mhm.
Sonam Mishra is also there. So you can also talk if you want to have, if you have any questions, Sonam, if you want to ask anything. I think Sonam don't have any question. All right. Is there anybody, if you have any query, you can write down, or you can, raise your hand if you want to ask now. Or if you have any questions later, I will just write my email address over here, and you can just write your question to us and we will give you the answer. Miss Nitika will give you the answer to that. So if you have any query, because you must have encountered many children in this situation with the similar attributes that we discussed in this presentation. And if you are not able to manage that situation or manage that child, and so if you want to manage that, and if you want any consultation, if you want how you can do it, you can definitely write about it. And if you want, you can raise a hand and ask question for now as well. All right. So I think it was a very uh, okay. So, Ms. Shagupta, I will definitely share you are asking for to share the first set of points on screen. So I will share the presentation with you personally, and we will also upload this video online on YouTube for you to refer later. And I think if you have any questions, we will take that. Otherwise, let's do a little two polls right now. So I hope you all learned a lot from from this live session, as we give all the how you can identify what are the attributes of children who need special assistance. And it is not just about Down syndrome or some physical disabilities, but these are small things that the children are not able to do, tie their shoelace, they are just clicking the pen and all those things. So all these things are to be considered, and they need help with that. So, firstly, I hope that you enjoyed this session. You learned a lot of things. And so, for now, I'll do just two polls, and then we will surely end the session. So, the first poll is that on which topic would you like to take our next live session? We have three topics here: teachers, mental health, and well-being. Second is understanding child psychology. The psychology spelling is wrong, so I just wrote it. So the third is national curriculum framework for foundational years, as the government has introduced the draft of national curriculum framework for foundational years. So we can also do a live session on that. We have experts who have already done research on it, and they can give a brief how that can be implemented, how the teachers have to upgrade themselves. So we can do further sessions in the coming weeks on those topics. So I see we have 52 people right now and 21 have voted. I would appreciate if more people vote on this. So, it's better that we take a session that you people want, and that is also helpful for teachers to understand students and also to manage their, mental health. I see there are three topics that we have got, and all of three of them are important. And we will take all three of them, but what would be the next session that we should take? I want you to vote for that. All right, we have got good amount of poll results so far. Many people have voted, and I'll just publish the results. So it is understanding child psychology. So we will be having our next session to understand child psychology in the coming week, or after 2 weeks possibly. And another thing I would request you, if you can just give me a review how it went. Just a second. Okay. So, how was this live session? How would you rate this session out of 5 stars? How you find it helpful with the interaction with polls? We would like to know from you, and I would really appreciate if every one of you can participate in this. It will be really helpful for us to make our further sessions more productive, more interactive. Yes, a lot of people have voted so far. Thank you so much for the 5 stars and 4 stars, and also the 3 stars. Every feedback is important. Okay, we just wait for 2 seconds. All right. Many people have voted, and so this is the result. About 72% of the people have voted 5 stars. So thank you so much, everybody, for staying until the end of this session. And I know it's weekend, it's a holiday, and I even received messages from other principals who have requested all their teachers to attend this session. I hope it will be useful for you to interact with children and also help parents to manage students, manage their children having these kind of problems, which are very common among children nowadays. All right, thank you so much. So thank you so much, Miss Nitika, for taking this live session, and we thank all the attendees, all the participants who participated, who joined this live session and stayed with us until the end of this session. Now we will end this session, and you can get the live recording. We will upload the live recording of this session online on YouTube, and also share it with you, and keep in touch with us in our WhatsApp group for future communication about the future live sessions that we are going to do. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend ahead. Have a great holiday and a happy new year to all of you.